let me thank you very much for coming to our first workshop. This is our first one. So if we are not impeccable, I'm very sorry. But again, this is the first workshop we do in Equity Match. And we are very keen to try to help our funders as much as we can in any aspect of the startup journey, which is very long journey. I'm a huge fan of funders, and I do believe funders are, no, I do believe, I'm completely sure because it is, funders are the future, right? Without funders, without innovators, entrepreneurs, the world will stop today. So I'm very keen to be here today. I'm very keen to welcome you to our first workshop. We decided to do the first workshop on the business value of design for entrepreneur. So why we did this one? I come from, my first experience actually has been theater and movie, and I moved to entrepreneurship and finance. But I'm a huge believer that how you design your company, it makes a huge difference, right, in what you're going through tomorrow. So when we talk about design, it's not design just taking your pencil and throwing down something. Design is how you think your business from the day one. So Neil, I met Neil personally. He's an absolutely entrepreneur. He's an absolutely expert on the design thinking for entrepreneurship, for business itself. So I don't want to waste too much time because we don't have unlimited time today, and there is so much to talk. Again, this is our first one, and we have multiple workshops coming in different aspects of your entrepreneurial journey. So we try to cover any aspect. We have others coming also in terms of leadership, how to become a leader, because any entrepreneur should have very strong leadership skills as well. Now, I don't want to take any more time from Neil. Neil, thank you so much to spend your time with us today. I'm very pleased to have you because you're an absolutely great expert. I'm very sure our funders will take a lot out from today. Please, I will leave I will leave to you to introduce yourself and to kick off the workshop. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you, guys.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Max. And thank you to everybody for coming. I'm really looking forward to this presentation. Right, I'm going to get the screen started and we can get straight into it. So the business value of design, sort of like, that's the title of the talk, which I'm really interested about, helping design or helping entrepreneurs build or get the most value out of designing their business. And it's all about customers and etc. So first off, I'm going to talk about a little bit about myself, just a bit of an introduction. Where have I come from? How did I get into all of this? Well, I come from I was fortunate to have a very interesting career that took me through, Web 2.0 or .com through to Web 2.0. I'm probably best known for the work I did for Barclaycard, Barclays and UBS, which were massive digital transformations where we got the opportunity to really transform the way that businesses interacted with their customers. There was, introduced data visualization, really changed the way that those things happen and put customers right at the center of those experiences. I've got a couple of stories about those in the deck, so I will talk to those as they come up. I then got involved with the consultancies, and a lot of the skills that I'm going to share with you today have come from my consultative experience, because the consultancies got involved in understanding that design was a really important part of their capability. So I was really fortunate to be first asked by Accenture and then Mckinsey Company to help them build their design capabilities, and that helped me see design not just from a practitioner's point of view. I always used to be come in, do something creative, and let's get that across the line and make it perfect. But when I joined the consultancies, it was really about, well, how do we help the companies do this themselves? How do we help them build and change the way they're working and move forward in really exciting ways? And now for entrepreneurs, that's an awful lot easier because you don't have all of the cultural things to unpick at the back end. So giving you those kind of thoughts and ways of working will help propel you forwards and be really effective in the future. Other things just to say, well, I guess I'm a designer by trade. I graduated in 1997 with a typography degree, and little did I think that my career would take me to the 30th floor of Barclays and tell the CEO how I think he should run his bank. But it did. So, that's how important design has become nowadays. And, I've been really grateful to the opportunities that have come my way. So I'm going to talk that's about as much of an introduction I'm going to give about myself. And this whole presentation is really a culmination of all of the things I've learned and the processes that I'm delighted to be able to share with you. And also thank you very much to Max and the Equity Match team for putting this on. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this and all of the work and effort that's gone to making this possible. Right, so let's get into the talk. I'm going to start bold. And this comes from a quote, actually, when I started design college, my lecturer said to me, learning design is going to change the way you look at the world forever. And, you smiled at that and you just went, really? Are you sure about this? And he was right. It does change the way you look at the world. You see how things are designed. You see the experiences that are created. You see how things can be changed, how we can be communicated with in so many subtle and interesting ways. And that's really, what I want to try to bring across. So I promise you that by the end of this talk, I hope that you will look at your business and look at your customers in new and exciting ways. Secondly, or not secondly, but the next, being able to understand who your customers are, what your business vision is, and what type of experience you want to create will increase your profits. It will save you money on the things that you want to sort of like purchase. It will help you build a culture which is really, really positive for your employees, and it will, it'll help you have happy, loyal customers. So there's much, much more that you can get out of this, but these sound like really, really positive things, don't they? So like, well, how can design help me do all these things? Well, I promise you it can. It changes the way that you think, and it makes you help make better choices. And it helps engage people in the wonderful businesses that you guys all own. So does that sound interesting? I hope it does. So let's get started. So first off, the talk is divided into 5 sections. First off, how does design bring value to businesses? So we'll talk about kind of the research and understanding that's happened around it. Then we're going to talk about your customers. We're going to understand how can we actually get under the skin? How can we understand who your customers are? How can we help you design customer journey solutions that will really help your business move forward? Processes and techniques that I want to share with you there. Then we've got the experience. What kind of experience you're trying to build for your company, and ways that you can actually map out and understand how to articulate and communicate and grow the big idea that I know all you guys have had. Then it's all about showing people. So, drawing out the big ideas, rapid prototypes, concept designs, really, drawing that massive picture and sharing with people what a great idea is, and bringing them forward to it. It's like that beacon of innovation. And then finally, at the end, we'll bring it all together, and we'll have some takeaways that you can, and we have some questions at the end. That's saying, right, at the end, we're going to be using this quite cool tool called Slido, which we'll just get to in a second. And we will have a Q&A where you can type in questions at the end of each section, and we'll spend a couple of minutes on asking the ones that are specific about each part of it. And you can use your desktop or you can use your phone to do this. And then at the end, when we do the Q&A, it's all going to be on Zoom. So everybody are muted and we can just chat, and it'll be kind of nice and informal. Okay, so here we go. We're going to have a couple of tests with Zoom or with Slido. So if you can get your phones out now and scan the QR code, or go to slido.com and type in this number, you'll be able to see our first poll. I'm going to get you interactive pretty much straight off. Right. So is everybody in? Has everybody got the right? So theoretically, this should now come up. And if you guys just start typing, we will start seeing where you guys are all from. And this is a little test because we're going to do some word clouds a little bit later on. So it looks like obviously most of the people appear to be coming from the UK at the moment, but Sri Lanka, South Africa, Colorado, fantastic.
I'm sure we'll be pretty international.
This is cool. This is cool. Right. I haven't got any more people typing there. So, you know, this is the first test for the brainstorming tool that we're going to use. So then I'm going to go on to the next one, which is to kind of understand a little bit more about what kind of business you're in. Same format, where if you could just put in kind of, you know, what your business sector is, so we get an idea of kind of who's in the room and what kind of sectors that are interesting. Who are your customer types? So why you type. One of the things I found nice actually, it was I resubscribed to Slido this week to do this presentation, and then it popped up on my account. The transaction was in Bratislava, and I went, "Oh, that's brilliant!" And sort of back in the early noughties, I spent a summer in Bratislava designing the website for the Slovak foreign investment agency to help them get into the EU. So that's how long ago that was. But yeah, I've got soft memories from Bratislava, and I didn't know Slido were based there, so that was quite cool and quite fun. Helped me remember being 20 something. Cool. Well, lots of really interesting bits there. So we've seen everybody type in and get an idea of who's joined the room today. So next, oh right, two more type in. This is cool. I won't move on to the next slide yet. Cool. Right, brilliant. Well, that's great to see. Thank you for doing that one. Right, the next one we have would be much quicker, is multiple choice. So if you just want to answer one of those questions, so do you have a strong idea at the moment about the experience you want your business to have, you know, what you want to give to your customers? Interesting to know what sort of how aware kind of people are, you know, if people are talking about design. Because quite often I had this really interesting chat last week with a guy doing security, and his term of phrase was people who used to think security is something you put over the top of what you've done, when actually it needs to be baked in. And I thought, you know, that's the same. It's the same with design. You really feel like you need to be baked in. But yeah, it looks like everybody's got design at the heart of their business, which is fantastic to see. So I've got a receptive audience. Cool. Right. And then the final question on this little Slido test, and although this is probably the most tests we're going to have here, multiple choice is, how well do you feel you understand your customers' needs? And I find it funny, this is the bit where the designer gets there, is that I crop this image differently. So it was the same as all the other ones. It says customer needs and it isn't, and I haven't replaced it. So that's frustrating from my designer perspective that I missed that. But we do have this perfectionist element to our personalities. So yeah, fairly well. This is good. Customer needs is something that we're aware of. Right. I will stop asking you questions now and I will do some talking. Right. The business value of design. we're in a time at the moment where there is a generational opportunity. People's behaviors have changed massively over the last few years. We all know why. We talk about the pandemic, we talk about the energy crisis, the war, all of these kind of things that are happening. But what's really interesting about that is how it's changed the way people are living, how it's changed the way that people want to do business, sort of the changing of working from home, the commuting, all of these cultures, which we were told we couldn't change because that's just the way things were. Well, we suddenly realized actually it's not just the way things are. We can change that. And we are beginning to question silly things like getting on the train every morning at the same time as everybody else to go to a city where we can do exactly the same job, bar seeing the people from our places at home. And this was an industrial revolution model that we're still following, that we haven't questioned. As founders and innovators, we have such a wonderful opportunity to be able to think of new ideas. And it's not about seeing what trends are happening. People that are going to be truly successful when we come out of, or things seem to get better, interest rates go down, and sort of like economies move up, and but the people that are going to be really successful are not the ones that are trying to design for today's behaviors, but who see the opportunities of where things are going. Obviously, Web3, the metaverse, all of these kind of things are inputs to that. But the opportunity for entrepreneurs is, I believe, greater than it has ever been with the technology and the cultural changes that are going on. It's driven by customer needs and customer behaviors. Okay, so here's some proper grown-up research on why design is good for your business. Obviously, being ex-McKinsey, I took great joy in reading their report that about the value of design. And basically, what they did is they tested top quarter businesses and to see those who were invested in design versus those that didn't. And they found that businesses that invested in design and had design at the heart of their businesses outperformed their competitors by almost twice. That's a pretty big number. So all of a sudden, when you've got this kind of research, you're going, right, okay, I need to take design seriously. Obviously, as a creative, you always felt that if it was designed well, it worked well, and it was going to be more commercially successful. And I had experiences where I worked in consultancies, like when I was at this company called Conchango, which were bought by EMC Consulting, and Conchango were one of the top 3 digital agencies in the noughties. And we got a stat back from EMC saying, look, companies that were led by the interactive, by the design part, were actually 20% more profitable, those projects. So leading with that vision. And I guess that kind of learning and understanding is what has driven design to become such a big thing through the consultancies and all the large corporations adopting them and becoming, sort of departments. Every corporation seems to nowadays have a director of customer experience or a CX director. 10 years ago, those roles didn't exist. So there's obviously a fairly fundamental change in the way that businesses are moving forward. So then here's another brilliant opportunity for entrepreneurs. This data shows us from inside the consultancies, from some of the challenges that I used to face about how to, unsilo businesses, how to move them apart, how to get them to work in a more collaborative and innovative way. If we look at the things that they see as challenging, such as it's difficult to have a user-centric strategy, it's difficult to embed design in the C-suite, it's difficult to measure it, to nurture top design talent inside an organization. It's true, it is very difficult to attract designers to work in these large corporations when they seem to want them to work in Northampton or in the city in fairly sterile environments, and it's very difficult to maintain that. And then it's really difficult to build into these businesses the ways of testing and learning that designers need. So if we look at all of the challenges that these guys are facing, I'm sure you're all sitting there going, I haven't got any of those challenges. I have a green field to a greater extent. So if we know the things that they're struggling with, it makes us feel an awful lot better and happier about how we can be more open, how we don't have to deal with those challenges, and how we can move forward in a really positive way and don't start putting any of those things back into our organizations. Cool. So then we look at, okay, well, if design is moving into these corporations, what is design? How is it having such an effect? How is it so powerful? How is it changing the profits of these businesses to such a massive level? Well, there are a lot of key drivers around this. One of them, design is more than a feeling. It's more than something that you can just kind of, oh, that looks nice, let's do that. And if you want design to work in your business, you have to understand it and drive it. So, this wonderful quote is to drive design performance with the same rigor as you drive, revenues and costs. So just if you start getting bad feedback on your finances, you go to that fire pretty quickly. If you start getting, customers bailing out of applications or not completing certain tasks or dropping out of the box, are we really challenging the UX? Are we really challenging the customer experience to the same level? Then we've got to look at how we divide up the organization. Design is not a department. I'm sure you've all been in those offices where, the designers, all of a sudden you walk into the design office and go, oh, look, nobody's wearing smart clothes and there's a pool table in the corner and they drink beer on Friday afternoon. There's this little design bubble. I remember actually once when I was at Accenture, it was quite funny. They'd done the whole 7th floor in their Fenchurch Street office, and they'd made it really, really trendy, wooden floors, big screens, etc., different dress code. And we used to go into the office, dressed as I am, like this today. And they go, you work on the 5th floor, don't you? Like, it was just like, some kind of, funny culture that, you're almost like a bit of a circus act. But that's got to change. Designers have got to be seen as equals, as peers to all of those that are in other businesses. And also designers themselves have to understand the challenges and the values of all of those that exist in those organizations. This was actually something that one of the partners at McKinsey said when they were trying to deal with the same thing themselves, is that everybody here has their own superpower. Everybody here, is this like, if you see like, this team of people, it's almost like the Avengers, they've all got a certain superpower that complements what everybody else can do. And if we kind of understand that and look for the fact that, okay, well, they're not a designer, they don't dress like me, they don't talk like me, etc., but they're probably really, really, well, they're in that space. They're going to be really brilliant at something that you don't know how to do. So if we see all of those powers and have this really open idea that, we don't need people to be the same, that we are stronger when we have lots of different skill sets. And then really understanding that, design isn't something that happens at the end, sort of like, oh, we've done this, we've got this product, we've done the service, we've built the servers, we've done all of this, we've employed all the staff, we built the department. Now can somebody make it pretty and take it to market? That's kind of what used to happen. And people are, understanding that actually, design needs to start, what is it we're creating? That's how kind of culture has changed. We start with design at the very beginning. And then we keep on learning. It's almost like, we often say when we're working on a website is never finished. Well, it isn't, it goes live, but it's always growing. It's always changing. It's always moving. And we know that there is no endpoint. It's not like when you did a print document, it went to the printers and that was it. There it is, that's finished. Everything is continually improving, evolving, changing, because needs, behaviors, service offerings, everything's changing all the time. So design needs to change all the time. So everything needs to work in those phases. And then, products, if their experiences, and this wonderful quote that I had, it was actually, I believe it was Kevin Gaskell. I met him at a networking do, and he was the CEO of Porsche in the UK. And he said, you know what Porsche is? Porsche isn't a car company. It's an experience company. And it's just like, you're right. It is. It's not about the cars. It's about what kind of experience does the car, the history, the brand, all of those kind of things, create. And you could say that with any high fashion brand, any luxury brand. They are experience brands. They are not necessarily product brands. Their products will change. And understanding that's a lifetime brand is one other small story about Porsche. I was at the garage there, and one of the senior guys said to me, he said, we have this guy come in all the time, and he didn't have the money to buy a Porsche, but he loved Porsches. He was just like, it was at the heart. He really, really knew everything about them. And guess what? One day he won the lottery. And where was he first? At the Porsche garage. And it's just like understanding that there is a lifetime relationship with these brands, and you want to have that experience across that whole customer life cycle. So a couple of quick stories about how the value of design has, changed these organizations, sort of like Barclaycard on my journey, and I was with them at Conchango/EMC Consulting for 4 years, and I ended up being the digital brand guardian and creative director of their in-house, out-of-house team. We had 50 people based, 25 in the UK and 25 in Shanghai, developing everything digitally for Barclaycard. This was the transformation in financial services of when we went from products and product teams to actually understanding that a bank was a service provider, almost like utility, where money is utility. And they needed to put the customer at the heart of what they did. And they needed to take responsibility and understanding about how customers use the utility. And just the same as we use energy. But this was, I think, 2007 we did this, which was my Barclaycard. And it was the first data visualization of customer spending in the UK, and I was very proud of the fact that this won a Design Week award. But I was told this, I don't know the fact, but I was told that this service saved Barclaycard 9 million quid in customer servicing in the first year. That's allegedly. I don't know. I haven't seen the data, but if that's the story that's going around, I'm sure there was a fairly significant impact on that. And that's a huge kind of customer. So that's a real business value. We went, let's design something for the customers. Let's make the customers' lives better. And that has a huge impact on the business as a whole. Second story, financial services. From Barclaycard, I went to and I became head of design at UBS. And UBS, very traditional, bank. And they had the challenge of transitioning the traditional banking model to one digital platform. They were putting all of their trading, analytics, communications, social networks, sales, all onto one platform called UBS Neo. The reason they were doing this was the cultural change, what was going on in banking. And, algorithms can do an awful lot of trading nowadays. And then the old boys network of people knowing people, somebody does my bonds, somebody does these kind of things, and they knew each other from school. And it's that was the way that the city worked. Well, that wasn't a sustainable model. What they needed to do was disrupt it and show that UBS was a connected intelligence of all this wealth and knowledge and financial insight, which was a huge change in behaviors for the bank and the organization. So this is one of those things that had to be led by design. We had to put a vision out there and go, this is different, this is new, let's see how this, and you'll see in the background there, and this was the first time I did it. It wasn't customer experience principles, but it was design interaction principles, which came from the final slide on the UBS one. They had a brand phrase that we wanted to unpick, which is UBS Neo opens up a rich, vivid world of connected intelligence that's yours to own, shape, and trade on. Okay, so how do we design that? Was our thought. And we needed to dig a little bit deeper. What do we mean by these words? How do we express what these words mean? How do we create interactions and service patterns and experiences that means that we can deliver on the brand statement? Similarly to when I was back at Barclaycard, they had a statement which is owning the world of simple payments. And that I used to manage the team, going, that's a wonderful idea you've created there. How does that help us manage the world of simple payments? And if it didn't, we had to ask, is managing the world of simple payments the right idea? Or do we need to do something different? Maybe a solution that does manage the world of simple payments would be better. So, right, I need to go into a Q&A now. Right, okay, here we go. So Q&A. Come on. Right, why is that not working? Apologies, it's misbehaving again. Okay, here we go. So if you have any questions about that section, please type them in there. Just wait a minute or two to see if you've got any thoughts. And if not, I'll move on to the next bit. So it was I'll talk on for a little bit to fill the gap, but it was amazing actually being at those, you know, when I was at these large banks, we didn't really think of it as strange or new. It's just something that happened to us. And when we look back on them and reflect, actually that was quite a big change that we were part of, and you know, we were good. It was good. Anyway, okay, so how is okay?
Thank you.
I can hear somebody. I'm not quite sure who that is. Okay.
We're going to.
Okay, we've got a mic on somewhere. I'm not sure. Okay, so how is AI affecting completing with design strategies? And very interesting, actually. I'm having a talk with about AI with a couple of people who are experts in it over the last couple of weeks. And I think there's opportunities for AI to be used for good, and AI to be used for things that aren't necessarily good for the brand. And I think it's all about the brief. AI can be used to do really, really positive and effective things to actually improve customer experience. If AI is used to save costs, to, you know, minimize number of employees, to close call centers, to, you know, be less focused on the customer, it will be bad. So I really think AI could work. You know, AI can be good or bad. It really is dependent upon the brief. Okay. Do you think there are different types of design, such as corporate design versus startup design? No. Is my thinking behind that. I think there are different design styles, but I believe that an approach to design and design thinking is very much the same, where you have to understand who your customers are. You have to understand what it is you want to achieve. For example, you know, I used to be a proper racing cyclist, and I have a good relationship with my local bike shop, which is at the end of the road, and I help them out with their website. And we were looking at their customers, and I used the same workshop that I used for a number of banks in understanding their customers and understanding their customer journeys to redesign the local bike shop's website. Exactly the same processes, exactly the same inputs. Obviously, the customer difference, the values are different, but the output ended up, you know, or the process was the same. So I think, you know, I hope that answers the question. Yeah, it depends, you know, who it is will change the way it looks. I believe the processes should be the same. But I think that's all the questions for there. So I will pause this one. Okay, right. Here we go. It's all about your customers. Okay, so customer personas. Talking about your customers, when I'm really successful with my clients, well, to be honest, actually all the clients that I work with and have done persona designs, whenever we're talking about the designs, we talk about the customers by name. And we talk about what value and what different needs that they have. And when I say the customers by name, I mean the personas that we've created for them. So here is an example that I've done quite recently for a startup founder who has a rewards business. And we started that, we started just with the simple exercise, kind of, well, who are all the people that you would consider your customers? Who are the people you do business with? Who are the people you sell to? Who are the people that actually work in those organizations that would influence the decision that people have to actually, subscribe to your service, to use your service? And what was really interesting about this rewards service is that for most companies, I'd end up just doing one of these and you'd have the whole customer base, such as I've got, different types of customers, and it was a standard B2C or B2B type. This service actually had 3 different sets of customers that came out of it. You had the people that would subscribe to the service and offer it to their employees. You would have the people that would use the service, so the employees, the people actually spending money through the platform. And then you would have a list of the companies that actually wanted to actually sell their products through the platform. And they the wonderful thing about Karma, and you should go and check out the business, it's absolutely fantastic, is that they plant trees through the rewards program. So the more you spend through the program, they plant trees. It's been set up by this wonderful ex-veteran or veteran Jim Holland, and they also employ veterans to go and plant the trees as well. So it's a wonderful organization, but they are a wonderful company. But this is kind of a really interesting thing where when we started asking the questions, who are the customers, who are the people, it wasn't just the person you sell to. And quite often people think about that, well, who's going to make the transaction? Who's the person that's going to buy? But there's this whole world of people who will influence the purchase, who will, help make decisions, who will feed back on the fact that, is the platform or is the product any good? And they're not the people you're necessarily dealing with, but there is a whole ecosystem of people that will have some form of relationship with your product and service. And if you understand that, you are so much more empowered to be able to communicate to designers, products and services that works that way. That has a relationship with employees, that solves the problems that these customers are looking for. So building out and understanding this huge ecosystem is really, really helpful for businesses to do. And I remember did this for a company a couple of years ago who sell projectors. And pretty much, and I didn't realize it was such a huge business. And we went into the meeting, and they said to me afterwards, said, we thought we knew our customers. We thought we had one. And they suddenly realized that they had about 3 or 4 different types with very, very different needs. And then they started developing product lines and service lines for, not just the really technical person who knew a lot about projectors, but for the person who would maybe put a projector in their home cinema, for the person who works in a design studio who doesn't really know much about technology but has been instructed to get a projector for the meeting room, up to they also worked at people that put projectors into large corporate areas. So these were very different services, and you can imagine just by the way that I spoke about those 3 different customer types that they had that were all really, really good customer types, the service and the information and the experience all of those people need is quite different. So you need to be able to understand those before you can design what that service is. From persona group maps like that, recommend them moving in and actually building a more detailed understanding of who these people are. So this is an example from a technology startup that's actually based in Windsor, which is where I live. I didn't mention that in my intro. And this company, Eaves, they have a data analytics platform that recreates the digital shelf for products, for services. Their clients are like Sony and Philips and etc. And they help, their product helps them understand where products are selling, what they need to do, how the advertising campaigns will work. It's really, really intelligent analytics platform. But we did the same exercise with them to look at who were all their different customer persona types. And then we deep dived into, okay, well, who are those people? What do they, where do they live? What are their worlds like? What's on their minds? How? And here are 3 examples. I think we produced 4 personas for Eames, but for Eames we had David, who's a sales director, and he works at Philips, and he is in charge of the lighting department there, and he's selling Philips products, so he wants to know where they are and what's going on. Eames isn't necessarily something that he's going to be using every day. It's going to be one of his team, but he needs to see the results of what the service that Eames provide. So we looked at, okay, what are his pain points? What are his needs and responsibilities? What's his wish list? But we also went, okay, well, where is David? Where does he live? How old are his kids? What does his world look like? So he lives in Guildford. He's got the high street. You can see his house. You've got an idea of what he does at the weekends. And all of a sudden he becomes a person. He doesn't become, oh, we need to sell to sales directors. And they're these big kind of grey people that we don't necessarily understand. He's David. He's got kids. He's got responsibilities. We can kind of understand what he does at work. And we can understand, the challenges he faces. And the challenges he faces are the ones that Eames could help solve, but they're not the features and functions of Eames, if you see what I mean. And that's a really different way to look at it, because so many businesses will sell themselves on the features and functions and go, well, we can solve this whole problem for you. Each of one of these personas just needs a sliver of what Eames does. They just need one part of their day, one part of their week, maybe one part of their month will be made better by what Eames does. For example, here we have Kyle in the middle. And Kyle is a data analyst. Kyle has nothing to do with the decision to subscribe to Eames, but he's the person that uses it every day. He's tasked with creating analytical reports for his sales guys during the week. And he wants Eames to work better for him. He wants Eames to help him do his jobs better. And if it doesn't, he's not going to use it, and he's going to tell his boss that this isn't good. If it does work, he's going to tell his boss how brilliant it is, and he's going to tell all his colleagues how good it is. But he's part of the ecosystem. He's an influencer. He's a user. But you've got to understand that he is part of the whole network of how to sell, how to engage, how to build a brand. And then we have the final one here. We have Veronica, who works in Navida in Santa Carla, and she is a product manager. So she's actually building and designing products that would go on the shelves that then Eames would manage. And she, to stimulate her understanding of how she would create these products, what kind of products are working, what are not. So her outputs from Eames are influencing what changes they make to their products and service development. 3 different people, 3 very different needs for a product and service, and we can have very active and individual conversations with this client at Eames about how we develop a really good product and service brand experience for all of these people, because it's not a singular experience, it's not a singular set of services, it's not a singular sort of solution, which quite often businesses are known for kind of, well, here's our perfect package, now let's go and push it out. Market stall, as opposed to realizing that every product and service is a concierge. It solves a unique problem in somebody's day-to-day life. So at the end of this, I've got a pack which you can, which we'll email out in the next couple of days, which enables you to start creating your own persona groups and then individual personas. So you can just do this back at the office, do this with your colleagues. And it will provoke a really interesting conversation, because I didn't mention that at the start. Probably the most powerful thing of doing this exercise is the conversations it creates inside an organization. Can you remember the last time you had an active conversation about your customers with your colleagues? Or can you imagine sort of if you go into a lot of different businesses or industries, when do you think the last time they had a deep and meaningful conversation about their individual customers and what they could do to solve their problems? Also, everybody's got these wonderful and unique different stories about their customers. We've all had different customer experience. I'm telling you lots of career history stories about mine, my experiences I've had. Everybody's got them, but we just don't talk about them. And we need to create experiences inside an organization, which enables people to have that active conversation, to talk about their customer experiences, to share those customer experiences and learn from them. And also that helps them feel empowered and valued. Oh, this customer came in and they did this, and oh, that's really important. Let's listen to it. Let's understand. Let's see how we can help. And trying to get everybody bought into the fact that, company success is about the customers. So this is how it works. So the one on the left is a customer where we map the different types of customer groups that you have. And then the one on the right is the very simple, straightforward one of how we create an individual persona. So we go to this one. So this is the example that I showed you from Karma. And this one is for the subscribers. And we did actually, it was stuck up on that very wall when we did this with actual Post-it notes and A1 posters that were there. But as you can see, we just went through and went, okay, who are all your customer types? It's CMOs, it's directors of sustainability, it's people looking for discounts, reward. And what that helped us do over a couple of hours is we put those people into groups. Who are the decision makers? Who are the influencers? Who are the people that are going to benefit from our business having this service? And it gave us an understanding of how then to develop and look at the individual customers and try and build their personas. But it gave us a different idea about the ecosystem, and you can see how that works. Then this one actually is for one of the retail customers, but we went down to, this was somebody that would actually spend on the platform. And this was about understanding. So Sarah is somebody that's looking for discounts. She's just gone back to work after her youngest kid has gone to school and she's taken a job. Her husband works in an IT company in Milton Keynes, and the new company she worked for has Karma as a rewards platform. And she runs the family. She's in charge of running the bank accounts, making the events happening. You can remember those that having young kids, and everything is a family exercise. Everybody's growing out of their clothes. Money's tight and challenging, but you still want to create positive, good experiences. So Sarah's interested in getting the best out of this rewards, but she's also interested in the fact that if I shop via Karma, that actually does good, because we get this level of social responsibility for the planet, and she feels good about using Karma because she can plant trees, and that when she spends and things on commercial things that her kids need, like clothes and shoes and all these kind of things, or days out, there's a bit of a positive feel good about the fact that she's using Karma to make these purchases, because she feels responsible. She's worried about the future for her kids. She's worried about the planet. So these are the kind of things. And if we look at that, all of a sudden I've told this story about Sarah, and I hope you can imagine that. We've all met people like her. We can all kind of relate to the feelings, emotions, and experiences. I can, my kids are 9 and 13 now, so we're slightly past that point, but I can remember what it was like. I think I was at Accenture when they were there, and we had a rewards platform, and we were getting Merlin passes and buying devices and looking for discounts and all this kind of stuff. So that that helps us get into the shoes of the person that's actually using a service. So all right, so here we go. Now I have another exercise. Exciting stuff. Right, so here okay, there we go. Right, come on, work. What we're going to do here is we're actually going to do right, here we go. So it works if I use the laptop. What I'd like you to do here, and this is just a little test, but if you take this away, or a little kind of try out, if you take this away and do it yourself with your company, is think about equity match. Think about all of the people who potentially would be interested in, or potential customers for equity match. Brilliant. So the first one up has come founders. But what I'm going to suggest is let's push a little bit deeper into founders, because we've all got stories here. I'm a founder, and a founder, somebody's been on I'm a design founder. I've been on a career path, and I've come from the design and agency background. There's quite a few people around my local area that have done this, such as the chap that set up Eves. He used to be the sales director for EA Games. So he's kind of ex-directors. We've got young entrepreneurs. We've got computer programmers. So if you see what I mean, just kind of pushing into, maybe put up what you are. You're a customer type, but beyond being a founder, how would you describe yourself? Because you would have a story if you were speaking to the team. How would you describe yourself beyond just being a founder? Chief of everything. Nice. Because we've also got all of the VCs, all of the investment, sort of people looking to. See if I can I enter one? No, I'm in editor mode. Any more thoughts or contributions? Just got one person typing at the moment, but so I mean, you potentially have, say, Max. You could even type in a couple yourself. Sort of, if who are the type of people that actually, would come, who you want to attract to Equity Match. We've got a lot of exciting founders on the call today.
I can go live. For me, it's easier.
Yeah, no, indeed, that's probably good.
Not using slide.
I mean, maybe this is one we need to talk about. Who knows?
But the kind of, we are pretty agnostic platform. For me, it's an easy job when I talk about which funders we want to get involved with the Equity Match. So we try to have funders in any stage. Equity Match itself is a startup. We have less than 2 years in operation. But we've done an extremely strong job when it comes to try to understand who is our persona in terms of customer. We don't have customers. We are very keen to consider funders. I'm a funder myself, so this is my first startup. And I'm Equity Match. I'm raising my first VC, which will be by far my first one, because we want to invest in startups as well, from the like of Y Combinator, which everyone knows here. But what we want to do, we are very keen, let's put it this way, in a very early stage or startup, where funders very much need support in any phase of their first 2-3 years life. When you cross your third, fourth years, it's different. You've got some customers, you have some traction, and if you didn't die by then, probably you go forward. If you're not in the right place, if you're not the right person, the right funder, not every funder is mentioned to succeed, because it's not going to be possible. There's nothing to do. So our funder persona is actually any funder that, of course, more related to the venture capital ecosystem, because where we are doesn't mean a fund that must raise money, but we try also to have the funders that do not need raise money. So we are a very large spectrum, because we help funders to raise money. Today we are not helping funders to raise money. Actually, we're helping funders how to understand how to design their business, understanding their customers. We are going to launch our academy next year, where we don't raise money for anyone, and we are going to launch LTV, our venture capital fund, next year as well. So yes, we have many services. Because we have many services, we can easily understand that our funder is, of course, today the one who are looking to enter the venture capital ecosystem, because it's not for any startup to try to get in touch with venture capitalists. Not any business can be backed by ventures. That's the point. So you need to understand, if you can be backed by venture capital, or your business will never get 10 times return. So that's not the case for you. But So we are very large, Neil, when it comes to understanding who are founders. And we go from fashion to high tech, AI, machine learning, blockchain. Today, we are overwhelmed by Web3. So be an agnostic platform help us a lot. And yes, of course, we are, as I said before, very, very close today to pretty early pre-seed C stage. And I suppose many of our attendees today are in that stage.
Super. Well, that's brilliant. Well, so there's lots of wonderful things, you know, the Web3 and blockchain, all these kind of, you know, different roles and responsibilities, which we would push through to put onto that board. But cool. But obviously these kind of things are just trying out how they work online as well. They're much easier with Sharpies and Post-it notes. but there we go. Right. So next section, and we're 3 of the sections through, which is cool. What is your business experience? And that's, you know, a really kind of interesting thing that we think about now, because it's CX, you know, but we have to define, okay, what is the experience? What is it that we believe about? So I'm really passionate about this slide, about this point. Where you see so many businesses and they look at the competition, they look at the big boys, and there's an emulation, there's an aping of all of the different kind of organizations where you feel like, well, that's a successful business, so I need to look like that. So, you know, that's potentially what a lot of people do. And then, you know, they don't get the most engaging brands. They wonder why. Okay, well, why do I not feel connected to this? Why do I not believe in it? Why, et cetera, et cetera. So here is the matrix of things to me that build up an experience. You've got a unique business idea. You came up with your business idea, and you came up with your business idea based upon all of your history, all of your experiences, all of the places that you came from, that you've had. You have a vision. You've got an idea of where you want this to go. You've got something that you believe in. You're doing this for a reason, and it's not just to do good to the world. It's actually because you want to, you know, have your own life story to create experiences for other people. You have values. You have values, you know, of what you want to do, whether that's environmental, whether that's, you know, political, whether that's family based, whether, you know, all of these kind of things that, you know, you get up and you will I feel successful if it adheres to your values, it adheres to the things that you believe in. Your business is an experience for you, it's experience for your staff, it's who will grow through it. You almost see like your staff like customers as well. You will have a certain point, or team, I shouldn't say staff, team, dear edit. Your team are a part of that journey too, and you are part of their journey. The skills that you have and the skills collectively that you have, the personalities in your business, everybody's business is a kind of active about the personalities that exist within that organization. And we forget so much that, you know, you go into a place, or you pick up the phone, or you hear a voice or something like that. The personalities of the people that work there are so much about the brand. And they should be part of the brand. They should be part of the experience. Then also there's a location, you know, your location gives you a culture, gives you a community, gives you an identity. And, you know, we shouldn't be ashamed of how much of that is part, you know, of where you are, of the story, of what you want to communicate. And there's a whole community that exists around that, of your suppliers, etc. And then your customers. Your customers are part of your experience. They are ambassadors. They are part of the team. They are part of your journey. And we need to kind of, apologies for this, I'm having trouble now, the room's getting dark. But you know, they are part of the whole story. So you've got to see your customers as part of your brand and your experience. So, you know, that to me is the palette of things that make up your experience. Why do we need to care about that? Well, things are changing. Again, there's lots of research out there, but it's over 50% of I says millennials, it says say Gen Y. I should really proofread this. Of Gen Y will not do business with a company who they don't share the values with. They will not do engage, and that's a huge thing. People want to know that where they spend their money, where they spend their time, the relationships they have through businesses are ones that they can be they can be happy with. So there we go. So it's important, and we've got to be much more aware of what are the values, what are the things that we believe in, and be proud to put those out, because we will find the right customers as well who believe in those things. And it's all positive. And I said, to the summary point of what's on the end of the blue text there: be authentic, be who you are, be what you believe in, and build your experience from that, and build your company identity from the things that you care about, that you believe in. Okay, right. So here is a story. I have this process that I created quite a while ago. And that was to create the customer experience principles for Bank of Ireland. I was working for Accenture at the time, and I found out about the brief when I got to Terminal 5, which is kind of the way that things happen in the world of consulting. What are you doing today? Well, you're doing this now. How are we going to do that? Well, let's work it out on the plane, shall we? But what Bank of Ireland needs to do is they had, same with all the traditional banks, all of the new startup banks happening, there's lots of change in, in the way that people want to engage in financial services. There's lots of things changing going on. And same with any bank, they realize they need to evolve. But Bank of Ireland's a really interesting story because it's, over 100 years old. It's part of the national identity as it was of Ireland. It's on every high street. It's on the rugby jerseys. It's on the, it's a visual part of the Irish brand as well as the banking brand. They also had generations of people working there, from people that have been their entire career life, who had got the traditional view of the bank and the bank manager and etc., to young people starting out on their first jobs, and every generation and experience in between. And to them, the bank meant something different. The bank had drawn them in, and the bank maybe was frustrating them about different types of things. As you can see, kind of like, they needed to collectively, to move forward, to engage with the new generation, to keep their existing customers. They needed to understand, okay, well, what is our role? What is it that we offer to the banking sector in Ireland and beyond, but predominantly to the Ireland and the Irish high street? What do we offer to them? And their core statement that came from Brown was easy to do business with. But they also go, well, what does that mean? What does easy to do business with? If we're looking at our customers, well, we've got to know, we've got to understand them. It's got to be simple to work with us. We want to be with our customers for life. We want to be seen as one bank. We don't want to be a pension bank, a mortgage bank, a savings bank, and a credit card bank, And quite often, a lot of organizations did segment themselves into their product lines, and they even had different call centers and different call services. So this is the type of customer experience they wanted to create. And then from this point, they actually went, how do we achieve those things? And you start pushing out the attributes, saying, well, if we want to be one bank, if we want to do the right thing as part of being easy to do business with, what do we do? How do we do the right thing in our day-to-day banking? What initiatives, what projects, what things do we need to do to make this happen? And I think that's the whole kind of thing, that angle to, obviously Bank of Ireland were trying to readjust, a century's worth, and they're trying to evolve into something that was an effective digital bank. But you see, the brief has changed for what they want to do. They wouldn't say, we need to evolve a new savings product. Okay, well, what's that going to contain? Well, it's going to contain something about doing the right thing. Say, for example, actually on some, Barclaycard were putting out an advert which made me laugh this week about going to 18-year-olds, saying what you should do every month is you should spend, buy some clothes and then pay it off at the end of the month, and that will build up your credit rating, and that means you can get a good mortgage. Strange. I can remember that very conversation back in 2007. But they're beginning to do those kind of things now, and it's really, really good. But those are the kind of elements that people need to share to do the right thing. So different brief for the bank, different brief for the projects. And for you as entrepreneurs, you kind of go, well, okay, this is a different part to the brief. If I have a principle, if I have a desire, if I have an experience I want to create, what do I do to make that happen? And that's a really, really powerful thing to be able to do. Now, obviously, this was a very big project. What I've managed to develop from that point is something a lot simpler, which is, to look at, so the projector company, there's one for the Karma project up there. There's another example for Danske Bank, which is a much simpler set of principles, which can be done kind of in a workshop where you say, okay, well, what 5 words would you use to describe your experience, your business? And it starts with 5 words. Yeah, it does start with 5 words, but there's a lot of interesting things that happen past that point. So, for example, this is the kind of process that you can go through for that. Okay, how am I doing for time? So you would have your maps, and you would ask, okay, you're in team. What 5 words would you just use to describe the experience you want to create for your business? And you put those on the board. And then you'd ask the next person to put the board, and then it kind of maps out and maps out and maps out and go, well, what do you mean by that? What do you, why do you say that particular word? And you start building a pattern, you start seeing duplicates, you start seeing all of these really interesting things happen. And say, for example, this is what happened at a workshop where you kind of go, right, here are all of these kind of, these kind of things that are happening. And these are all the words that are going towards doing that. And actually, I didn't realize I'd actually used 2 Karma examples in this, but it's the most recent thing that I've done. And I've got good pictures of this because they're in person. Most of the last ones I've done have been online. So I've got lots of post-it shots for this. But these are all the words that Jim and his team actually looked at with the Karma workshop. So then we kind of distilled that down. Okay, well, what are all the words that we actually kind of said and meant, etc.? What do these mean, and what do we actually mean by this? And what we found is there were headings that sat above all of this that were kind of like, what's beneficial, what's having impact, what's being successful. Well, that's all about making it happen. Then there were lots of things about it being worthwhile. We spoke about Sarah and kind of how does that feel worthwhile? How does it feel emotional, etc., and moving things forward there. Well, that's emotionally uplifting. So when, when the Karma team talk about this, it's saying, well, we want to bring things together. We want to be financially rewarding. We want to have measurable impact. And all of that came from distilling and having a really active conversation about what it is that they wanted to achieve. There was a final step to that where we got to this, which was a very simple statement about what the vision was. So I'm just turning my light on. I was going very orange. So this is what we actually got to something that's really straightforward and really direct about, okay, what try and experience. It's something that the team can go, okay, well, we're sincere. But what do we mean by sincere? And we know that there is something that's solid behind that. We know we've had a really strong discussion, and those beliefs have come from the team. Those beliefs have come from the people that's there. And then there is a sense of active ownership of those experience principles, because they're not what a branding agency has told you. You are innovative, you are strategic, you are all of these kind of things. And, I'm from that world and I hold up my hands. That's the kind of things that we used to do. It doesn't work. You cannot impose a brand on a company. Your company has to be your brand. And that is, and having your company, having the people inside your organization believing in it, having ownership of it, feeling that they can control it and help it grow, that is the trick to all of this. So that is kind of where we go there. Now I have another workshop, one which was showing the same idea of experience principles. So we'll give it a go. We won't go too long, but on it. But which was to just get you to test to see experience principles. Is that going to work? Yes. Okay. So this is the same one. No, it's not. Sorry, wrong poll. Okay. So we don't equity match again, but if you were to describe, as and it could be any kind of, founders, startup agency, if you were to describe or pick a number of words that you would like the experience to feel like, and we start off with words like professional and strategic and things like that, but think of 5 words that you would, or any words that you would think of that could describe that experience, such as, for example, this one. This is educational, this is informative, this is sort of skills, and that's an element that's come through. Well, I hope it's educational or informative. But that's, these are potentially kind of things that would build out the brand. So what are the types of experience that organizations would want to create? Honest, fantastic. All right, getting quite a few in here. This is brilliant. Easier than the customers one, yeah. Guess we all have an opinion. What are the things we want Max to make possible for us, hey? And Max didn't know that I was going to use his company prior to this event. I told him just in the warm up, I said, Max, for the test bits, I'm using equity match. I hope you don't mind.
Of course, I'm more than happy. So we know what's going on, what works, what must be fixed, and also
yeah,
that's
it's live user testing, which is always good fun.
It's beautiful. We're very open to any suggestion. Critics, they're always good.
Wow, cool. We got lots of good words in there. Brilliant. So ease, trust, honest, sustainable, game-changing, memorable, innovative, understood, wanting to be understood. That's nice. Appreciated, personable. Yeah, these are all, as soon as you say any of those words, it's just like, okay, so what does that mean? How do we do that? How do we make that happen? How do we make it memorable? Yeah. Brilliant. But you can see for me as a creative, and say a lot of these processes are about kind of came from me trying to create the best brief that I could. Because honest is the one that's been most but to actually create the best design brief that everybody understood, that the client was bought into, that the team was bought into. And to me, this is a really rich set of words that help you then become creative. But you say memorable. How do I do memorable? What can I do to make memorable happen? So that worked really well, that one. So thank you everybody for playing along. Brilliant. Okay. So then allergies on my camera. I don't know what it's doing. It doesn't like this. My camera doesn't like it when the sun goes down. So I need to can't reset it because I'm in presenting mode. So apologies for that. Right. So the last kind of key bit to this is about innovation. Is about how do you actually then take this customer experience and make it into something exciting. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, I believe that's slightly better. Sorry. Okay, so, and this was actually something that came out. I know a few of the guys that are on are from the Startup Stand-Up group that I'm a member of, and this kind of came out of a talk there where it's like, if you're an entrepreneur and you've got this brilliant idea, is it easy to show people? Is it easy to actually put that idea across, and you talk about it and there's a slide deck and there's lots of different ideas about how you can actually make that happen. Well, you're all thinking big. but you need to draw a picture in able to get people to buy into that. So in this section, I've got a couple of, stories about, well, what are the activities? What are the things that we can do? Don't worry, there's not an exercise at the end of this one. So active, proactive brainstorming. The things that you need to do is basically design a concept of the team. One of the things I love doing is that when you do a workshop, you go, anything's possible. There are no wrong answers. Let's get everything down. Let's not worry about doability. Let's not worry about cost. Let's not worry about technology. And especially with innovation, you need to kind of be thinking, well, it might not be possible this week, but it might be possible next year. And what is the trend and pattern, and how do we, get on that curve? So the great thing to do is just to get involved with proactive brainstorming. Get involved with all of those kind of things, and invite the team and pick up a Sharpie and draw lots of sketches, and really kind of, try and invest in the idea that you can create something new and unique, but have that culture where sketching, ideas, innovation are not part of something that happens, once every 6 months or once a year. It's something that happens once a week. It's a culture that you're supporting, where somebody can come with a sketch and go, yeah, let's stick that up on the board. Let's see what happened. Let's have a discussion about it. And let's also invite everybody into it. Don't just give the designing to the designers. Don't just give the technology to the technology people. Get everybody in the same room and talk about the solution, because the solution is everybody's responsibility. And what this talk about design is actually bringing is that design is not what it looks like. Design is a way of working that helps everybody from every different skill set create something together in collaboration that they all believe in. That is also the right thing for your customers, and will also make innovation happen. So this was a fun thing that I did, but it proves the idea of innovation. And you can see that I'm the one that didn't actually do a design for this, but I had the joy to actually go back and to my university, which is the University of Reading, where I'd studied typography, and they let me do an alumni talk and do a workshop with a group of students. Only girls turned up. I'm not quite sure why, but that was just what happened. And we did this workshop, and I was told, by the professor that brought me in, sort of like, well, we've got this new app, we've got this Freshers app, but it's not really very successful. With students aren't engaging with it. So if you could come up with some ideas for the Freshers app, that would be great. So we went into the studio room, or into the studio, and we started. And within 3 hours, I introduced the brief to the students, and we're going to do a Freshers app. Okay. And we're going to have concepts by the end of this. And they just went, are you mad? Seriously. And, in that time, and we went through the exercises that I've shown you today. So we went, okay, well, who are the people that are going to be using it? And we've got different types of students, and and I didn't realize there were students that, living away from campus is something that happens an awful lot more now. So people that, travel locally to the big universities, students from different kind of, backgrounds, international students, they all had, different needs. That app was aimed at trying to bring students together to help them connect, to communicate, to maybe like meet people from the same course who were living in different halls of residence, because you become quite siloed in the place that you live. So we kind of deep dive into all of those kind of things, and we spoke about the experiences and the different customer stories. Then once we had an idea, and I think it was Ben and James and Michelle, I think, I can't remember, I can't quite remember, but they both had different stories. And we did this thing where we actually took one particular journey, which was about 2 students who wanted to meet, who were living in different halls of residence, and they wanted to kind of like go for a meetup and explore the campus and get to know things. And we got the teams to actually sketch the story for these 2 different students, and then sketch out what an app that could deliver that would look like. And we did it with a big clock on the wall that had like, you've got 50 minutes to do this. And they did it as a team. And then they sketched out the ideas really loosely. And then at the end of it, they presented it back. Now, the great thing was you have two teams. A competition is really, really good at getting, things moving. And within that period of time, they just went, we've got all of these wonderful concepts to build. Now, this kind of came from a lot of the things that I did in consulting. We used to do that with like business teams. And then the challenging thing that then happened is that we do the sketches in the workshop, and as if by magic overnight, they turned into working prototypes. It's amazing what you can do in a hotel room. But but it's and it's all of a sudden like, I think we sketched yesterday. Look, it works on your phone and everything. But luckily, if you did this with me, I might ask for a day to actually do that rather than do it overnight if I was working with any of you guys. But the whole idea is that you can get something really, really quickly into the hand now of somebody. Now, one of my favorite stories is I went through the processes that I've shown in this document or this presentation, that I was working for a bank, and they wanted to do a startup bank, but they decided they couldn't do it inside the building. So they took lots of, talented people who from different capabilities. We went to a WeWork office. And in a week, we facilitated this bank from an idea to a working prototype that then went to the board to get approval to go further. And we did that in 1 week. We took via these processes, working really, really quickly. Lots of incredibly smart people in the room. I was just the creative standing at the front going, but why, and holding the Sharpies. But it's the process enabled them to actually work through their ideas to create something that they believed in, that was very quick, but it was also customer focused. So we didn't get tied into lengthy PowerPoint presentations about this and that, and this is technically important. So it helped get innovation, and time restrictions are really, really good for doing that. So these kind of hackathons, rapid prototyping, are really, really positive ways to create innovation within any working culture. And they're also fun, which is also the great thing to get involved in. And work in innovation should be fun. It shouldn't feel hard. And then building on that, how do you make this a culture? And this is probably one of my favorite photos, which I've made into a cartoon, so you can't recognize anybody on there. But what's brilliant about this photo, and this to me is collaborative design and culture come together. This is a user testing session for an app or a service. There's a iPad, I'm pointing at the screen, you obviously can't see it, but there's an iPad on that table there, which is actually, I think, the iPad that's over there, which is mine. And what we were doing was doing customer testing of the thing that you can see on the screen. In that room, there is the CTO of the bank. There is the development team. There are designers. There are a lot of consultants. There are technical people. There are credit people, and there are customers. And the customers are live talking through and giving direct feedback to everybody in the room. No barriers, no boundaries. This is what we've done this week. And literally what was put on the wall was done that week. And it's a sketch prototype. And there was feedback directly from the customers to everybody in the room. And that level of transparency and engagement really helps change and also build sharing culture within an organization. And as founders, as people starting a business, I passionately believe that these are the things that we should all do. These are the ways of working. These are the best ways that we can make the best versions of ourselves and build the best companies that we all want to work in or do business with, and etc. So stealing a line from a film, which I actually really like, the Live Die Repeat film, but sprint, do a short exercise, do a concept, make something like that, then test it, give it to customers, as we see sitting at this table here, learn from their responses and do it again. Sprint, ideate, test it with customers, learn from it, move forward. And that shouldn't just be a stage to product development. That should just be your culture. You do something, you put it out. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be ready. And it's part of the story. And we learn from it and we move on. And then we try the next thing. So I'm getting to the point. So then closing this out. So as I said, draw a picture and show people. This, for example, is a completely prototype version of a B2B something for British Gas done many a year ago, as you can tell by the fact that the iPhone's got a bottom on the bottom of it, or the button on the bottom of it. They're quite old now. But this was completely different to anything that they had seen or were doing or anything like that. This was complete innovation. But in order to actually get engaged the conversation, what we did is we did these designs and we didn't put them in a PowerPoint presentation, printed them off on A1 posters, stuck them in a meeting room, and then got everybody to walk around and have a discussion about them, because they suddenly became real. They suddenly became something that people wanted. They could actually buy into the idea. They could actually go, right, do you know what? I can see how to do that. I can see how to do that. This is good. We've got that intro, and all of a sudden everything starts coming together because you can see the end customer experience. So if you've got a pitch deck, if you've got an idea for an innovation, design it as well as you possibly can and put it at the front of your deck. You just lead with it, lead with that vision, and then explain how you want to build towards it, explain how you want to make it happen. Okay, so we're summing up now. I'm just checking. I'm on 84 minutes, so I'm doing all right. Okay, so takeaways I'd love you to have, and I'm going to ask you to give feedback on that in a moment when we bring it back together and we have a conversation. I'd love you to have confidence in building your own identity. Say, okay, well, that's great. Who am I? What do I believe in? What do I want to do? How am I going to make my business different? What are my values? And have confidence that you don't need to be anybody but yourself, and write your own brief there. The second one is understanding how your business brings value to your customer's life. You've got, and I must admit, I've spoken to a lot of founders and watched a lot of pitches over the last couple of years. And the amount of times I've asked a founder, say, well, who's it for? I said, well, everybody. And I went, is it? So it needs to be more precise like that. It could be for everybody, but if you have an idea of the problem you're looking to solve, you would have a much more specific audience that you're targeting, that you're trying to build. So you've really got to understand your customer and then develop that service for servicing that individual need. I refer back to Sarah, who's the mum who's gone back to work and wants to use a reward program. How is that going to help develop a product or service? And then how do you keep driving innovation? How do you keep moving forward? Because, you don't want to be a founder, here's something really, really creative and then get stuck in that. And I'm sure, I hope you guys won't, because I'm sure that won't happen. But if you need to develop a culture of development, of growing, so that you stay fresh, so you stay engaging, so that people stay happy, and so that you remain innovative. So get in that culture of innovation from the ground up, because it's easy to do when there aren't any things to change. So start right. Simplifying that. Own your own brief. Who are your customers? What experience did you create? What's your vision? The more grown-up solutions to that, or the more kind of business structured, is, okay, create your strong sense of identity with long-term vision. Measure your customers' performance with the same rigor as your costs and revenue. Get to know your customers, and you all have to be collectively accountable for the experience they're having. It's not, oh, that's somebody else's fault, or that's the person answering the phone, or that's the sales guy's fault. Everybody is responsible for the customers being happy. Make sure whenever you're having a meeting about product development or something to have in the back of your mind, or even I was told this story actually about from a VC. I'm at an event in London, and she said, there's one company I know, they actually have a spare chair at their boardroom table, which is the customer. So, it's to actually kind of like visualize that, but have your customer present at every meeting. One of my roles is to actually be the voice of the customer. I'm quite often, but what would the customer think? But the best thing to do is embed that into your culture, and then iterate, test, learn, as we said, that build forwards and do it that way. On my closing slide, to give confidence, and I was having a conversation this morning about people being creative, You are all designers. You are founders. You are innovators. You are wonderfully creative people who see the world in a very different and exciting way. Design isn't this mystical art. It's not about being able to draw or be creative or compose things. It's about thinking differently and about how you're going to build the product. 90% of that is research, is making sure you've got the right brief. And I strongly also believe you have the answers to all of the questions that are right for your business because you set up your business in the right way. You just might not be asking yourself or have been asked the right questions. So hopefully some of the things I've shared with you today will be interesting questions to share. And that is me done. And on a closing point, just a little bit of a story to end that. I am also a lion trainer. Well, actually, I train my kids under 10s football team. And in regards to actually being a founder and building the experiences that you want to build for yourself, this was mine. I couldn't have done this in my old corporate life. And building experiences like that is kind of, one of the great things about owning your own business. So I now switch to Q&A. Or actually, no, we can go to go back to Zoom now. So I'll stop sharing and we can have questions.
Thank you, Neil. Each of you want to ask anything to Neil, please do it now. We still have another quarter, more than 50 minutes. So for each of you still in the room with us, any question, Neil will be more than pleased. And I want just to start with this one. It's completely right. I hope you can hear me. You do not need to wait for having a perfect service or product. Just launch it, test. Only the market will tell you if you are right or wrong. Won't be yourself. So try to test without any problem. And if they tell you it's wrong, you still have time to change it. If you go to the full spending 1-2 years building the perfect product, and the market will tell you, I don't want it, you have spent so much time for nothing. Please, that's your time with Neil. I hope you have some questions so we can keep talking.
Yeah, and we don't have to do mute. We can just all chat now. put your cameras back on so I can, if you're happy to as well.
Gary, any question?
I've always got some sort of question.
Someone must start. Otherwise, it's always the same. Right? I'm sure you.
Yeah, and really good presentation. Thanks a lot, Neil. Going to go back on what we were just speaking about then, which is probably, I think, with most startups, and obviously I've been there and done it before, is when it comes to the testing, and everyone thinks visually it has to look good when they first launch it to their customers, because they're worried that if they don't, they're not giving them the finished product, then the person won't like it. So what's your opinion around that? If you give them only a partial MVP, then they might come across as they're not liking it, but they might have really liked the actual full-blown vision that you wanted to get across.
That is a challenge. There was a wonderful quote actually from there was a discussion panel that Max facilitated a couple of weeks back about the metaverse, and one of my favorite quote from that was there's a difference between perfect and ready. In understanding, I guess, kind of how customers would feedback on that is having a clear idea of what feedback you're looking for. And, putting it out there to kind of like test, what are the things you need to understand to be able to move that forwards, and really focusing on the MVP, but making sure that your prioritizations are correct, and then setting the testing, setting the initial product launch so that the customer is aware, that this is service one, but this is what you're looking for feedback on.
Yeah. Can I quickly just come back to that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the perfect example is we created a taxi app many years ago, and taxi drivers now are used to quality. And so imagine that your customers used to quality, they're used to really good design, and then you go back to basics and you build them something that's probably not as good as they're used to. Do you then get a really good feedback, or do people go, you know what, I've seen it's not that good quality? Like, design can come across as making things look like it's got really good quality.
I would suggest, I'm a great believer in smoke and mirrors, in regards, if you can make the elements that you are showing look as good as possible, you are right, people will form an opinion very quickly if they don't feel it looks good. So it is a matter of trying to make sure that you do prioritize a level of design. Design is important, and sometimes startups or founders will fail because they might build the entire back end, but if people don't want to pick it up and use it, if it doesn't feel engaging up front, they won't get the buy-in. So it's about kind of like, well, maybe if we don't do all of this hard stuff, the technical stuff, the business stuff, if maybe we make sure that we do the bit of design, the bit of technical stuff, and the bit, so that we've got something that is the experience that we want to create, that will connect with the people, but it's maybe only a sliver of it. And just, I think it's about prioritization, but you're right. If people aren't engaging with something and people will dismiss it, it's kind of showing the power of design. People, if they don't like it, they won't use it. And if they don't feel it works for them, even if it does technically, if the UX doesn't work, if the brand doesn't work, then it can be quite damaging.
No more questions. We have one, Georgia, which is, I suppose, is still live. Let me check. Whoa.
I think Georgia's had to leave.
No, she has to leave, but Dedra is probably here. Yeah, we are very close to the end of the, we're almost at 7 o'clock. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions. This will be nice for us, so we can keep talking until the end. And otherwise, Neil can. Dedra is here. Dedra, you have a question. If you want directly to ask to Neil.
Hello. Yes, my question is, with all of this that one person or a company has to take in, how does a company, a person, and any entrepreneur stay motivated when you're constantly running into brick walls? How do you continue to keep going and jump over the wall to get to the prize?
Well, I think and it is challenging. I face that myself, and sometimes it seems a long way away. And a couple of things that would help. One, the simple exercise is about giving yourself the kind of confidence in, okay, what's my experience, build confidence about yourself, and who are my customers, and actually creating a bit more of a focused niche and not worrying about, when you've got an international massive company, but going, okay, who are the people that I'm trying to target to? Who are the people that are going to make this grow? Then also adopting the kind of sprint, what we call sprint design, but the other words to use it are agile, where you set yourself a target which isn't the huge end thing, but it's actually, okay, well, what can we achieve this month? What can we achieve this week? And really keep focused on what's come to that prioritization point, while still having taken a bit of time to create that vision. So there's your vision. Got an idea of your customers, you've got experience, and then just take the small steps. Don't try and crack the whole thing, because that is impossible. It will give you anxiety, it will stress you out, it will, it can seem unfathomable, but you can work out, okay, well, what step can I take this week? And that's the one at the top of my list. Let's do that as well as possible. That's, I guess, my recommendations to making your goals obtainable.
Thank you.
That help?
I'm sure it is. It does.
Okay, cool. And if anybody also, I'd love to get, feedback on, sort of questions, but so, I'd love to know kind of, either, reach out to me at the end, or, I'd love to get feedback. This is the first time we've done this one. It's the first time that I've done this specific talk, and each one of those slides was desperately handcrafted. So yeah, if you thoughts, feedbacks, things that you thought worked, things that you thought that didn't, I would love to hear. Cool. All right. It seems quiet, Max. So should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I mean, we reached the end. I hope you guys, you all enjoyed, and yes, my speak is on, and my microphone's on. Sometimes I just speak with my microphone off. So this can happen. We get back, for anyone who wants to get back and having more conversation with Neil. Neil is open, and you can get in touch with him. Neil, if you want to tell to all still the founders with us how to get in touch with you for any follow-up. And also, Equity Match team will get back to you in a few days with the all recorded video will be sent to each of you. Plus, we'll send you the key learning points that we believe has been given from our event today. This is pretty much everything on my side. I really thank you guys for being with us today, and I really hope you enjoyed and you learned a lot from our workshop, and of course for all the knowledge and experience that Neil has been bringing to the table today. Neil, if you want, I really want to leave the closing to you, and I want personally thank you for this great session.
Yeah, thank you, Max, and thank you to everybody for coming along. I just hope you find it useful. I hope it gives you confidence to be creative and to look at your business, which is a wonderful idea, from the idea of the customer and how you can help them live a better life and add value to their life, and also to be confident in who you are, what you believe in, because that's what made you a founder. So grab hold of that, draw a picture of it, and go and show everybody, and I'm sure you'll be really successful moving on. Thank you.
Thank you everyone. Thank you so much.
Cheers, mate. Bye.